Hey, ladies, welcome to episode 50. I'm having a party. All right, I'm just having a party by myself in my closet, but I'm going to imagine you out there hearing this. You're going to do a little ditty with me while you're listening. Yes, yes, episode 50. I'm I'm seriously overwhelmed at the support for the podcast, and I'm also just excited that we're here. When I started this podcast and I knew I was going to show up weekly, it wasn't like I had episode 50 in mind, but it just is here and I'm so full of joy. I thought it would be best for such a special occasion to have a very special guest on the podcast. This guest has been my best friend since I was 13 years old. We met freshman year of high school. And you're going to hear a whole bunch of stuff, but I'll tell you, we have not lived near each other since freshman year of high school, and it wasn't even the entire year. Most of our friendship, we have lived thousands of miles apart. It's crazy. It's so good, but it's a conversation that is so important to me because we acknowledge we probably wouldn't even be friends today if we hadn't been friends then and created such a close bond. We're unlikely best friends, and you're going to hear all about it. I cannot wait to dive in. Before we do that, I want to let you know that this episode of the podcast is sponsored by Veggies Made Great. If you've been following me on social media for even a moment, you know I love these products. They're great for picky eaters, people who don't really even like veggies, people who are looking to get some more, veggies in. They're so great. My kids love them. You can find me usually with a cup of coffee and one of their muffins. They have double chocolate, blueberry oat, banana chocolate chip. And my kids will tell you, you cannot taste the veggies. But what I love is when you read the ingredients, they're first on the list. They also have frittatas, which are amazing. They also have vegetarian and soy-free options. When you're listening to this podcast here and now, August 23rd through August 29th, there is a 10% off Target tag sale on the shelves for Veggie Made Great items. And it doesn't stop there. You can get an additional extra 20% off all Veggies Made Great items when clipping with the Target Circle app. Ladies, head out to Target, try these products. I'm going to link in the show notes Veggies Made Great so you can check them out. You can even go to their search on their website and find the closest store and what products they have.
Welcome to the Health, Life, and More for Women podcast with certified life coach, mom of four, and just all-around lover of all things 80s, your host, Jennifer D'Amato. Buckle in. Let's get started.
Julie, I'm so excited for this episode. I can't even tell you. This is going to be so much fun. Welcome to the podcast.
Yes, this is going to be a walk down memory lane that I don't know if we're ready for, or if our parents are ready for.
Don't you feel like there should be like a disclaimer on this episode? We cannot be held liable for things that are said, and we can't be punished. Like, you can't be like retro punished 20 plus years later, right?
Right. Like, haha, we got away with it. Too bad you didn't catch us yet.
See, that's a Julie response right there. We got away with it. I'm thinking, Mom, don't cry. It's okay. It's not a reflection of how you parented. And here you are,
right.
Like, haha.
We got away with it. Yep.
We're already setting the stage. Like, I feel like, oh boy, we are in for it. And if our moms happen to be listening, maybe I should just come right out and say, turn it off now. Don't listen to this podcast.
There's a statute of limitations.
Any other moms listening, if you have little kids around, maybe we should also put the disclaimer, don't have them hear this episode.
Especially teenagers around. it's it's appropriate language, but you don't want to give anybody any ideas.
That's really funny you say that because before we started recording, my oldest is 15. As you know, the audience may not, but she's 15. She came in, she knows we're doing this today. And I told her, this is one of those episodes you don't listen to right now.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Maybe we should say the same for your 16-year-old. Like, this is just one maybe you don't listen to.
Right, right. I have tried to, be open with my kids and, tell them that, the paddy wagon is no fun. There is no party in a paddy wagon, so that they can learn from some of my prior mistakes in life. Um, but I have not included all of my Gen time growing up. So they know that we have had a lot of fun together, but there's a lot of things I've left out and censored for my kids as well.
And to be clear, Jen's never been in or near a paddy wagon.
Correct. We have lived very different lives.
Okay, but you bring up a good point. I mean, there's a long history here. So I feel like let's at least set the stage, because we are going to have this dynamic throughout this conversation. And I feel like if we just kind of give a little history on us, our relationship, that kind of helps a little bit. If you could picture a field hockey field, green grass in Massachusetts on a probably fairly warm but nice, I'm going to guess August day, because if school started closer to September, it should have been August, right?
Yep. It was definitely August. Yes.
We
yes.
meet. Now, I have to even say that is like somehow an act of God or something, because I don't play sports. Like, know me now, like I don't play sports, and I have no idea what was going through my head before
there was
freshman
sweating and dirt and things that you were not really down for.
No, and running with this stick and that ball.
Right.
That ball
hurts. It hurts. Yeah.
I'm well aware, because I ended up with my leg in a brace at one point because my knee got taken out by that ball. Like, yeah. I had no business being there. And the only good thing really that came from it was you. I mean,
yes.
Me.
And for me, the good thing that came out of it is not only did we meet, I also met about 4 or 5 other Jens that had also been on the team. And that came in handy down the road, meeting so many Jennifers.
Yeah. That became very interesting for you. And I have to admit, I participated in playing the part of whatever Jen I needed to be for the Jen, but maybe we won't dive totally into that. Other people can piece together what they need to. When you were at Jen's house, whichever Jen that happened to be, yes, that was the Jen's house you were at. I mean, it just is.
Well, when I disclosed my location, the intent was that I was at your house.
Always.
However, there was many times when I would get caught not being at your house, and I would say, obviously, I was at another Jen's house, and I would pick just a different last name of a Jen. And I was like, I was at that Jen's house, or I was at this Jen's house. So it was very challenging for my parents to keep track of which Jen's house I was at. Little did they know I was usually not at many of the Jen's houses.
Let's be honest, you might not even have been at a Jen's house. I mean, we're just going to put that out there. But you know what's cracking me up is here we were just talking about, like, we both have our kids on that Life 360 app. So, like, we can track their location. Can you imagine? Julie, can you imagine if our parents had an app like that?
No.
Oh my gosh. Our story would be so different. I would actually say, I don't think we would be as close. I don't think our relationship, like if we hadn't done the very stupid, okay, dangerous, I'm just going to say the word, dangerous things that were done.
Right.
I don't know if we would have been as bonded, right? Like, so we meet on this field hockey field, and it sounds so like High School Musical and, sports and, girlfriends. And no, the real truth of it is I had a boyfriend who had a best friend, then Julie became my best friend. So the four of us, we dated at the same time. We became super close, though we were dating maybe, I mean, your typical, why are you dating this person? I was 13 starting freshman year. You were 14. Yes,
Yeah,
Julie's older than me, but so was everybody.
barely.
Anyway, barely. Okay. But anyway, so we end up dating these other they were best friends. We're best friends. And so we spent a lot of time together, which was
Hmm.
so great.
Yeah.
But part of our history is within that time together, we really did some stuff that if our kids ever did, I don't even know how I would handle. I'd probably just they'd never leave their room. I'm just gonna never leave their room, be
Right.
grounded for life, lose everything that they've ever had or would want to have. Can you even imagine?
No, having a 13-year-old and a 16-year-old now, which is the age years is that you and I were together and very close. And I think now, oh man, if my kids ever did anything, and I think that it works for my benefit that I can at least try to stay one step ahead of them because I know the tricks. I know,
Mm,
and I would like to say my kids are very well behaved and don't do a lot of things that they're not supposed to be doing.
I'm gonna keep telling myself that for the rest of my life. That's
Right.
and I'm
And
gonna
I
say
like
it
to
for
think
you
that
too.
that's what my parents thought too.
I mean, can you imagine? Because I'm gonna put this out there. If our daughters together, like you and I, walked 4 miles at least an hour and a half, probably longer, on a busy road in
Mhm.
torrential downpour rain because they had gone to a boyfriend's house together to hang out, which they weren't supposed to be at, and then walked all the way back to my house.
Yes.
Can you imagine?
No, no. I mean, I don't, you say it was an hour and a half. I think it was felt like about 4 days of walking. I mean, our clothes were saturated. It was flooding rain, and we weren't supposed to be where we were at, anyways. So the anticipation of getting home before parents got home just
Yeah.
added to the stress, and it was a memory that we will never forget.
Never. And where we grew up, it's not flat. There's a lot
No.
of hills.
Hmm.
Was a lot of up and down. I mean, dang girl, we must have been in some freaking amazing shape. Like we probably didn't
Right.
think it at the time, but come on. We were
Hmm.
probably so in shape because as you're saying it, I can remember like that. It's an adrenaline, but it's also like that fuel that makes you walk that little bit faster. And then
Hmm.
I can, I'm my gosh, I feel like I'm having a flashback in the moment where it was like, how much longer, how much closer? Because remember, we don't have phones. We don't have maps on our phone and navigation. I mean, we knew
We
where we had to
weren't
go.
even really sure if we were going the right way many times throughout that walk. And I can just remember thinking, that's it. I quit. I don't want to
Yes,
go any further.
yes, right. I can remember that feeling too. And only people probably on the East Coast who know what we're talking about. I can remember when we saw the Cumberland Farms at the corner going,
Corner.
we were going to make it. We were
Yes.
going to be okay.
Yep.
I mean, it's things like that. And that is one example of what bonded us. I mean,
Hmm.
there's so many, but really it was when we were talking about this as we were preparing to hop on this episode, we really weren't together in school. Like when we say that we met in high school, like freshman year, and that we're high school friends, people get this image, right? You go through high school together, you spend 4 years and you're in classes and you have lunch together. We didn't have that.
We had about 2 to 2.5 months together in school at best. And we were in different classes.
Mhm.
Um, you know, we just, I came from an extremely small town and we actually got bused over to your town to go to high school there. So we didn't live in the same town. We were only together for maybe 2.5 months in the actual school together, not in the same classes. We had lunch together. I
We
remember
did.
that.
Oh my gosh. I'm telling you, the flashbacks are out of control right now. We did have lunch together, but you're right. It was such a short period of time. I've told you before when I've even mentioned your name, as far as, it comes up, in random conversation. They're like, oh, her, because you weren't there very long and you didn't go through elementary school and middle school with all of us because our class was really small and tight knit. It was the last really, really small class of our high school.
I
So
got
by the
you
time
beat
you
on
graduate,
the size of the
oh
class,
yeah,
though.
yes. When you
My
say you came
elementary
from a small
school was
town,
my elementary school 8th grade class was 8 kids, 6 boys and 2 girls. So it was when I was very sheltered going into a real high school that we had to get bused to.
yes, you were, but that didn't last long. I mean, if
No.
we're being honest.
Right.
It did. But our time together, as far as high school goes, was so short because you moved, and I mean, you moved several times, which really,
Yep.
I would say in most cases, even in modern day, like right now with cell phones and all that, it really can affect a relationship. It's hard
Hmm.
to keep that when you're a high schooler and when you're just this teenager who is completely self-absorbed, right? We just being honest, the world revolves around you, everything's about you. So
Hmm.
the fact that our friendship stayed as close as it did,
Right.
it it really does. I don't know. Sometimes I'm baffled by it, like I can't believe it, and then other times I'm in awe of how
Right.
close we
Well, most
were.
people, even in your 40s, if a friend moves away or even just changes jobs, you lose that connection. Having changed jobs a few times throughout my career, if you're not working with them every day, you're not really maintaining that level of friendship. And that's as adults when you have every form of communication, you have the transportation, you have everything to be able to maintain that friendship, but people just don't. And here we are back in the 90s, and really not even, we had no transportation because we weren't even 16 yet. Did we even have pagers yet? I mean,
No, no
you know,
pagers.
we didn't have pagers. We To call each other was long distance. So I remember having to put you on the friends and family plan so we could pay less for our hours of conversations on the phone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so true. I mean, and I think we did a good job of seeing each other when we could, but the reality is you were at a different high school, you were making other friends, and I was, I'm in school. We're doing all the things, we're involved with things, and we had to be really, really intentional. But
Right.
again, I go back to, I believe it's because of the ridiculous, crazy, stupid, sometimes dangerous things that we
Right.
did, choices made, that we laugh about them today and, and all of that. But at the time, it was the stuff that just completely bonded us together. And what's
Right.
really interesting, and you mentioned this, back at the beginning, you threw out their paddy wagon. Julie knows what one is, Jen does not, because Julie
Yep.
and Jen took different paths, like just kind of on a similar road, but it's kind of like I can kind of see you. I'll wave from the other side, but
Yeah.
there's some trees in between us, and you can't always
Right.
see each other.
So there was a state line in between us. I was still living in New Hampshire. You were living in Massachusetts, but there was the other side of the tracks is kind of how it started to veer off to, not just the other side of the state line. We definitely started. You started getting more, even in high school. I could remember you started getting into student council, and I was not. I was just trying to get through high school. I hated being there. I went to 3 different high schools. I knew high school was a joke and something I just had to get through in order to get on with real life. And you really submerged yourself in the high school life and really became, well, the kind of cheerleader of your class. And
Mhm.
I did not.
Jen was most school spirit. Julie was just showed up to school when she had to.
Most of the time. Most of the time. I can't say I did every day.
Yeah, when you had to, just
when
when
I
you had to.
Right.
You know, and I
When I felt I had to.
and even back then, like, I believe we knew those differences. Like, the fact that you can recall that so clearly, like, we knew how different we were back then.
Right.
You know, let's be honest, we didn't even have field hockey in common. You actually liked it, like,
Right.
weirdo.
Right.
I mean, you actually enjoyed, I think you
Yeah,
enjoyed the
I
physically
continued
part.
on with it for a couple more
Yeah,
years. Yeah.
yeah. I think you just wanted to hit people with a stick, but that's
That may
just
be
me.
true as well. That may
I'm just throwing that out there.
You're
But I
most
really,
spirited. I'm probably the most mean spirited.
I mean, I'm not arguing. But even then, as bonded as we were so different.
Hmm.
We made a lot of choices, even in our young years, that were so different.
Right.
And yet it didn't separate us. Like, if you think about that and what you hear today, I mean, we're living in a time of cancel culture.
Hmm.
People are canceling one another. They're stopping. I mean, if you get on any social media right now and you say something people don't like to hear, we're not friends anymore. People aren't
Yeah.
speaking to each other. And here we are, like, from a very young age, we didn't always agree. We made choices that were different. And yet it never pulled us apart. Like, we valued the friendship at such
Hmm.
a high level that even I'm thinking even going into college, I mean, if we're going to be talking about differences, I mean, high school is one thing. Let's look at college. We actually didn't talk as much anymore. We didn't
Right.
talk all the time. We kind of knew where we were and, when big things happened.
Correct.
But we lived very different lives. On the day to day, we were making different choices, and yet there was still, like, I don't know, I call it a heart connection. Like, you were always there, even if we
Hmm.
didn't talk very often.
Well, yeah, and I think we kind of committed to that type of relationship. I mean, even just I remember going to your house and Sunday morning, it was church time, and here
Mm.
comes your atheist friend getting dressed up to go to church with you because I respected you and your family enough that that's what you did. You respect each other, even if it's not something that you believe in or you're comfortable with. You still, even though your mother, I think, didn't ever want to take me back most times, I still showed up for you and, supported you. I mean, in college, you were looking at all girls schools, you were looking at different majors. I knew what I wanted to go into. I knew I wanted a school that had a much higher male to female ratio. I was very intentional that I did not want to go to an all girls school or even a school that had um, a ratio of more girls than guys. I knew what I wanted to do when I grew up. I had goals and ambitions, but I also wanted to live the life that I knew was going to be a great time.
And you did. You
Yes.
absolutely did. You absolutely did. And of course, you respected that. I'm so happy with the choices I made,
Right.
whether it was high school, college, and beyond. I love that you brought up religion. And I know it's a topic people are like, eek, I can't believe that. And this is still I would say, probably one of our biggest fundamental differences.
Yes. There's a lot of things that we do not agree on.
Mhm.
Like complete, not even gray area. We have some black and white topics that we do not agree on. And most society places will, most people in society will, shy away from even discussing that with somebody that they know that they don't believe in the same thing. I'm not talking just religion, any topic. Society just does not, if you don't believe what I believe in, then I don't want to hear it, and you're wrong. Where you and I have had very open, very in-depth conversations about everything from religion and beyond to raising the kids and relationships and just there's so many major life topics that we are so polar opposite on.
So, and that's really true. And that's one thing that when I was considering this episode, and people, tune in and they don't know you at all, right? They don't know who you are. And looking at our relationship, the reason it was titled Unlikely Best Friends is because you and we've actually had this specific conversation that if we met now,
Mhm.
at 40 years old, even if we had met 10 years ago, like we've talked
Right.
about this specifically
I
and
think
we
even if
joked
we
about
met at the age of 25, I
right,
don't
no,
think
I agree
20
with you. Yep.
we would
Yeah, I
not
agree with you.
be friends. If so
We
if you
wouldn't.
look if you look every 10 years, we met at 15, we became very good friends, but I think at 25 and 35, I don't think at any one of those points that we would have maintained any level of friendship. And, I probably would have talked some smack behind your back and we would have never really, been friends at all. I would have said, who's this crazy girl that's, this big cheerleader, peppy? Who does she think she is being so happy all the time? Where I'm much more, I have more of the gallows humor and see the world very, very different than you.
And you're bringing up, I love these points you're bringing up because that's the beauty of it. The beauty is, and I think we did a great job, and I have to get actually I give you the credit. We have these tattoos, and if you've been on social media, you've seen them that Julie picked because we always said when we're 40, because I didn't have any tattoos. Julie is tattooed, another very big
I
difference
have
between
I don't know how many I have. 8, maybe 9, 10, I don't know, 10. I don't know. I don't really keep count.
she said when we're 40, we're getting like complimentary tattoos. And what you chose, it's like it couldn't have depicted us any better.
Mhm.
Where I wear this tattoo with this wing because Julie is the one that helps me get out of myself and pulls me out, sees a bigger perspective, hear different viewpoints that are not my viewpoints, to have compassion for other people, respect and empathy. And she just gives such perspective to me that I need that. I really need to be brought out of even my set ways, and I'm so focused in goals and this, and Julie has always been, and even more so as we're older, does that for me. And Julie's tattoo that she has on her is an anchor.
Yeah.
And we have this
You
cute
have kept me
saying.
grounded and
Mm.
safe, and or tried to keep me safe, and you have definitely kept me grounded. And as wild as some of the numerous things I have done in my life, I probably either would not be alive today or I would have lived a very even more extreme life had you not said, you should really stop and think about this or that. Or you never made me feel bad. You never, condemned anything that I was doing. It was just very, you know, you really should think twice before you make a decision like that. And I think that having that sound board of an ounce of sanity to talk to you um, really has made a huge difference. There was definitely things, jumping out of airplanes and things that I've done that I definitely did not tell you until after I've done them.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Uh, um, because I do respect the fact that we have very different opinions on many things. So sometimes I just know what I'm going to do when I do it. And for the major things in life, you and I have always talked things out so that I don't make rash decisions, and have kind of always, you're my go-to person when I need to make a decision about anything major in life, because you definitely keep me much more grounded.
And what's really great, that even if there's been things where it's like, I'm just going to tell Jen later, because
Yeah.
we should just say, and I don't know if people are, getting this impression, there's no permission giving here or anything like that. It's actually, there's such a bond here. We tell each other everything. There's
Yeah.
nothing we don't tell each other. Just sometimes I hear about it after. And
Right.
what still happens in the after is love and
Yep.
respect. And like
Hmm.
I choose to hear, Julie, even if I completely disagree with you, which has happened. And actually, even recent, like we've had some disagreements, some
Yes.
things that really where again, you said it, like at this day and age, in our 40s, and this happens with women all the time. It could be like, you know what? I'm done here. Like,
Hmm.
I'm just done because we're so different. And it feels like we're never going to see eye to eye on something. And
Right.
yet we show up. And I can even be honest with you to say, hey, you know what, Julie, like that bothered me.
Hmm.
And then you in turn do exactly what someone as close as you are to me, you listen and
Yeah.
you hear what I'm saying on the other side of that,
Hmm.
which to me, again, it speaks to what's possible for women. Like,
Right.
what's possible in friendships? And I know friendships for women are just, they're just hard. I
Mhm.
don't I don't know exactly why. I talked about making friendships being hard. That's the second episode in the podcast. If you haven't listened to it, I highly recommend that one. But I also just recorded a podcast episode about women comparing and competing. That is something I don't feel we've ever done.
No.
Like, even when we've looked at the differences, it's never Jen has that and I don't, or Julie's doing this and gets to have that and I don't. Like, we've never
Right.
been in that position.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't
No, I
feel
don't
a
think so either.
comparison. Yeah, even when, again, we bring up differences, and it's so funny because we do talk a lot. It's harder as our kids are getting older and life is busy for both of us, because we went through a season where we literally talked every day, Julie.
At
Like,
at hours length
an
every
hours.
day.
And if we couldn't fit in hours in one spot, we talked multiple times during a day, to the point where I'm
Oh,
pretty
yeah.
sure my husband was like, "What is going on here?" I'm like, it didn't even, like, I didn't even question it. It was just, if we can't be in the same state because we live thousands of miles apart, we're going to talk as often as we can.
Right.
Like, he thought
Yeah,
it
I
was
mean, we
nuts.
live on opposite coasts with time differences
Mhm.
and work schedule differences. And, I remember working night shift and just calling you in the middle of what was my night because it worked for your time.
Even if we go through times right now, I was just thinking in the last couple of weeks, like, it was like a week, because you just went through big, move and transitions, and you've got like 100 things on your plate. I mean, let's be honest, Julie always has 100 things on her plate. But it was like a week and we hadn't talked.
Right.
And then I feel this like gaping hole, but I also, because I know you so well, I know it's not about me. It's
Right.
never about me. It's never an intent or malice, or, it's not Julie's talking to everybody else, all the other Jens, haha. Julie always has a Jen in her life, multiple Jens in her life, but it's not about that. So all I do is send you a love note. And
Correct.
you've done the same for me. When
Yep.
we haven't been able to connect, it's you just send a love note.
Yep. Just thinking of
And
you.
yeah, I mean, again, there's a way to keep relationships strong, even if you don't talk every day, even if you don't get to spend time together. And literally, we see each other it's going on like every 2 years,
Hmm.
which is not easy to do when women, like, we're so relational. We
Yep.
want to be together, and I'd say sit and have a cup of coffee. Julie doesn't drink coffee. I've tried, guys. It's not going to happen. She'd want me to sit and have a beer with her, and I don't like beer. So, I mean, I'm
Yep.
telling you, how are we friends?
Yeah, I mean, there's fundamental things as to what we're going to drink over is challenging.
I know, even that is so funny. Like, I'm like, let's go get coffee. You're like, no, let's go have a beer. No.
Yep. And we don't even meet in the middle on wine because we don't even like the same kind of wine.
I It's seriously, I mean, again, we do talk about this. How are we even friends? How are we even friends? And even, I would say, my teenagers have noticed that. Like, we're
Hmm.
so different. I would say your oldest, your teenager, your girl, like, they see the differences in us. They see how
No,
we
that
are
my
so
kids tell me
different.
all the time, "How are you guys still friends?"
Yeah.
And I just laugh and I said, "I don't know. It just works." It's funny with the kids because our children are also extremely different, and yet having only met each other, I mean, well, my kids haven't even met your two youngest,
Hmm.
and the two oldest ones have, they have all met, but they were babies. I'm potty training ages
Yep.
that they've met. But you are their aunt. My children know you. They text you. They call you. They have had a full relationship with you since they were born,
Hmm.
even though you are nothing like their mother. They hardly ever see you. I think they've only met you in person maybe less than 5 times, and yet there's still that bond even with my children that you have. And same thing, I mean,
Oh my gosh.
I'm just as close with your kids. I mean,
Yep. I mean, it's so funny how they talk about Julie as if she's here, right? Like, as
mhm,
if you're part of our everyday. They could pick your kids out of a lineup without a doubt, in my
oh,
mind.
totally. Yep.
Yep. Yeah,
but
it's
it's
so
the
great. And again,
it's the effort that you put in
mhm, yeah,
that you are a living person in our lives. Even if you're not present in the physical space with us, you are still with us every day.
we're modeling what's possible
Yes.
for them to even see it. First of all, we're showing them you don't have to clearly even live in the same state to have a
Right.
friendship. Second of all, how amazing is it that you can be this close to a person, to consider them like family? I mean, we're sisters without having to be related. We're that close. You can
Mm-hmm.
have that for this long and be this different.
Right.
It's something that I always say, and I said it to your oldest the last time I was with her, I hope that if you're the Julie, you have a Jen in your life, and if you're the Jen, that you have a Julie. I
Yeah.
really believe I am who I am because of our friendship. Like, it has played such an important role to the point where I tell people this story, Julie, all the time. People ask me, oh, how did you get into this work? Like, how did you become a life coach? Like, what led you to that? And I tell them this story of on the phone with you. And I can remember it clear as day because we were talking about a couple of your coworkers and they were struggling to make decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And you were like, Jen, you should become a life coach. And I
Mm-hmm.
laughed and I'm like, Julie, that's not a real thing. And you're like, no,
Yes.
no, it is. And
Yep.
like, this is typical. I literally had to go look it up because I'm like, I'm going to prove Julie wrong because clearly she doesn't know what the heck she's talking about.
Yep. Yep.
And discovered this entire other world I didn't know existed.
Right.
And when I told you about it, you were like, that's what you're doing. Like, you knew before I knew this is what I was supposed to be doing.
I think you've been my life coach since you were 13 and I was 14. We just didn't know what that was.
We did
And
joke about, do you remember we joked about for at the beginning of my journey, like, imagine if I had charged you.
oh, I would be
Dude,
broke.
you'd be broke and I'd be a billionaire.
Right, right. There's been yes. Yes, it would. Yep. But
But you think,
I do think everybody needs a Jen in their life, especially if it is someone who sees things very different. Or, people will go out and purposely find people for their life that are just like them because it's easy to have a relationship with somebody that has the same views, that doesn't disagree with you, that will support you because it's what you want to hear, or they'll
mm,
support you because you've picked this kind of very bland canvas for your life of who's involved with you. And I completely believe that we will never see eye to eye on pretty much a lot of the same topics we never have seen eye to eye on. But I respect your opinion and I am open to listening to your opinion. And I think if you were closed off to my opinions or listening to my side, I think that that's where a lot of the trouble would have come in.
yeah. Yeah, it's definitely the one relationship in my life I can continually look at to teach me about myself and teach me
Mm-hmm.
how to show up for other people. It's
Right.
funny because I am a Christian, and I know you brought this up before that you're an atheist, and you've always said that. And
You say
go
quite
ahead.
often, oh, I'm going to pray for you.
Literally in the last couple of weeks, as you have a
Yes.
student driver, I knew that was my opportunity to be like, Julie, let's talk about God now.
In all the
You'll
years where you have told me that you were going to pray for me, I have kind of just silently rolled my eyes and said, okay, I guess it can't hurt. But now that I have a daughter who's driving, I say, yes, please, please pray for all of us.
and I really think in this point of religion is usually I think it's a big breaking place for people.
Yes.
And there's been times where we've felt this struggle, we
Mm-hmm.
felt that division, and yet we kept stepping in. We just kept showing up. We just kept being open and listening and not giving up on our relationship, our friendship. Because for me, it is the most important thing in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And yet I feel unbelievably respected and you
Mm-hmm.
honor what I believe.
Yep, because I stand in my convictions and you stand in your convictions, and neither one of us will waver in that. and I'm not just talking only religion, with everything in life.
Mhm.
And I don't think we've ever had a topic that we didn't agree on, that we were able to change each other's minds on. I don't think you've ever changed my mind on something that was a, really different topic, for us. But it's never made a difference for our friendship. I stand by my convictions, you stand by your convictions, but we respect each other enough, and I support you even if I don't support all of your decisions in life. And I know you have supported me, even though I know you have not supported all of my decisions. And I think that's what friendship really comes down to when you are so different, is I am who I am, you are who you are, and it doesn't matter I think it doesn't matter that we're so different in so many things.
We
Still
don't
love you, and I love that you are so committed to your beliefs on every topic that you believe in.
And we don't go into a conversation, into a disagreement even, with the intent to change the other person's mind.
No.
But we've grown this relationship where we expect perspective. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we expect to hear a different perspective.
Correct. Yep.
And there's where I think, again, things can be done differently within relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really any relationship, right?
Right.
Whether it's romantic or friendship, whatever, that you can change how you show up, that
Right.
you can go into. I'm not here to change your mind, but you also know, and I know the same, like, I'm speaking for both of us, but
Yep.
when we go into a conversation, I'm going to get another perspective, most likely. I'm not going to get that pat on the back and just whatever you want. And you're going to tell me what you think. And whether it's about a piece of furniture or homeschooling or family decisions, relation, whatever it is, like, I know I'm going to you expecting the perspective. And I know you
Right.
never show up with, I am going to tell Jen, this is what it is. And she needs to hear what I'm saying and adopt it.
Right. Well, we can even put on the table how many things that we are different in. You have homeschooled your children from day one.
Mhm.
I cannot wait for my children to go back to school. I count down every minute until they go back to school. I love my children in school, and I hope they go back again this year. You have been lovingly married to David for, was it 19 years now?
19 years.
It seems unreal. And I have been married, divorced, relationships throughout the years, lived a very uncommitted life to anybody other than to my children for 10 years, 8 years, 9 years. I don't even know. I mean, after my divorce, I did not want to be in a relationship. I did not want to have any level of commitment to anybody. And other than I wanted only my children to be my world. And, you have David, and you have your religion, and you have many other commitments in your life. And, I lived a very different life from that. I didn't want to come home to the nuclear family during those years. And that was a very big difference for us. You are always extremely sweet and kind-hearted and find the best in everybody. I am very blunt, to the point. If you ask me a question, you're going to get an honest response, and I don't buffer how I say things. And that's a
Yes,
huge
I'm
difference.
honest, but I probably layer a little bit of sugar on top of
Yes.
the honesty.
Yep. Yep. I'm going to tell it the way I think it, and if that's okay by me.
And you've
And
always been that way.
yes, yes. Even our jobs. I mean, you have chosen to stay home with the children for numerous years, and, growing, loving house, and just support David with his career. And I work in a trauma center where my life revolves around gang violence, guns, knives, blood, the worst day of everybody's life. I'm there for that. And there's been days when I've had to discuss my work with you, and I know that you are probably dry heaving on the other side of the telephone, And you have always been there for me, having no idea what it's like to be witness to gang violence or, horrors of people's worst days, where you have lived a very different life from that. But you've shown up for me every time.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing, Julie, where you're a single mom. I mean, you are a
Yep.
single mom. You have a great relationship right now, but you are a single mom and you've been a single mom for a long time. And yet, as a married woman, I can talk to you about marriage stuff. I can talk
Yep.
to you about those struggles in the same respect where you talk to me about single mom stuff. I have no experience with it. And you already know that. I don't have to explain it to you. I don't have to, like, I don't have to have this like asterisk with you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I may not, have, direct experience, but here's my perspective. No, you just come knowing all of that.
Right.
And yet, as different as our lifestyles, life choices, we keep coming back to there's such respect. I don't actually, I'd say there's a lot of times where we're not even expecting a response. It's not about, I'm going to go to the other person and dump on, say things, talk about the ER. Guys, the stuff I've heard from Julie is, I wish I'd never heard, but I'm here for her. She's not coming to me for like, I have to respond. I'm an ear. And I'm not just any ear. I'm an ear of, I love you. And when
Mm-hmm.
you have someone who shows up just to listen, coming from the only place I'm coming from is I love you.
Mm-hmm.
I love you. I care about you. I only want the best for you. I don't even have to say anything.
Right.
I don't have to. And again, you've been that same exact, again, as different as we are, you do the same thing for me. You don't have to say anything. I
Mm-hmm.
just need to tell you, because I can remember distinctly, even in my marriage years ago when we were struggling. We had a lot of little kids all at once, and life was hard, and there was no money, and it was just so tough. I could go to you and you just listened and you just listened and you just listened. In the same
Yeah.
respect, when you were walking through your divorce, I didn't know what it was like to walk through that, but I could be there and I could just listen and listen and listen.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we've established that we are best friends, but unlikely ones, because of where we are in our life and what's been going on. I'd say the last 20 years have mostly been like that, where
Mm-hmm.
we've lived these very different lives. However, we do it really well. I just first of all want to say we kind of rock. I mean, we
Yes.
are a model example for all friends.
Yep.
I'm curious, Julie, if you could give women advice of, how to do friendships as an adult woman. We're in our 40s. The reality is we're struggling sometimes to be in relationship with people who are different from us, who are
Mhm.
fundamentally different from us. What advice would you have for them?
Well, I think that being comfortable with being uncomfortable
Ooh, so
is very important for people. I think that, you know, I know that you're very different than me on many aspects, but and it can be uncomfortable to hear kind of some of your advice or some of your thoughts about my life or, things about my past, but I still respect you and I still respect what you say to me. And I think it's okay to hear the other side because if you only see one side of friendship, if you only keep that kind of very neutral um, view on things where you can only be friends with people who see the world the same way you do or believe the same things you do or if you are a single mom and you only have friends that are single moms because you believe that they're the only people that are going to understand what you're going through, I think you're missing a lot. You're missing a lot of opportunities to see the world another way, to get advice on another side of things. It's always better to hear more and to see things a different way because it will, in my opinion, it only makes you a better person to open your eyes to everything. And once you see more sides of different topics, if you hear different opposing views, it helps you weed through all the knowledge to decide what really makes you you and what makes your convictions what they are. if you only have friends that will tell you one side of things, you live a life that you only know one side. I think that that is one of the biggest things, is just really seeing things, you know, I think had I only been friends with people that were single, I wouldn't have seen or really appreciated what a beautiful marriage is like you and David have. I would have only lived a life of like not knowing what it's like to see the other side, to see what it's like to be in a happy marriage. I would have lived a life of single life is the only place that is good, because that's all you're surrounding yourself with, is people that are telling you that same thing. But there's so much more to life than what is directly in front of you. And sometimes you need someone that loves you wholeheartedly, that you honor and respect, for them to point out the other side, the other views.
I could not agree with you any more than I am right now. I am so glad that one time out of 25 plus years, we recorded
Yeah.
a conversation. I mean, let's be honest, early conversations, if they had ever been recorded, I probably would have been in that paddy wagon, but moving on. That one time we sat down
Well,
in the many
can I just go back to that for a minute? I was innocent. I think I left that part out, is I was innocent.
and that's the story, and she's sticking to it. I've heard that story for 25 plus years. I'm not going to touch it. Yes,
Statute
Julie
of
was innocent.
limitations.
She was probably with Jen anyway. I mean, let's be honest. On that note, Julie, I love you. Thank you for taking time out of your extremely busy schedule to be on
Yes.
my podcast and to share about this beautiful friendship that we have.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't be where I am without you.
Oh, I love you, girl.
Love you too.